Hello, friends, and welcome back to Malicious Compliance Stories. Let's kick off our video with a wild story about a customer at a burger place who really wanted extra mayo. This isn't just any customer complaint story, it ends with a twist you've got to hear to believe. But before we dive in, make sure to hit that subscribe button, smash the like if you enjoy the content, and ring that notification bell so you never miss a juicy story. Not enough extra mayo. I used to work as a supervisor at a burger joint in a small mall. Our basic burger was simple enough with top bun, beef patty, tomato slices, lettuce, bottom bun setup. One day this customer came in ordering a burger with extra mayo and some fries. He paid, took his table number, sat down on his table and waited. No problem so far. I was working in the kitchen that day, so I made sure the kitchen staff put extra mayo before we sent the burger out. We usually put mayo only on the top bun, and when someone wanted extra mayo, we doubled up by also spreading mayo on the bottom bun. This would ensure you get mayo pretty much everywhere. But of course, it wasn't enough for the customer. When the waitress delivered the burger to him, he immediately asked where the extra mayo was without even touching the burger. She explained to him that it was on the bottom bun below the lettuce. He said it wasn't enough, so I added some more mayo between the beef patty and the tomato slices. So now we have top bun, mayo, beef patty, mayo, tomato slices, lettuce, mayo, bottom bun. That's plenty of mayo. As expected, it still was not enough for Mr. Mayo, and he was being rude to the waitress, telling her how she couldn't even do a simple request. The waitress came back with the plate and reported to me how Mr. Mayo was being rude to her. I really didn't like it when someone was being rude to any of the staff, so I took over. The first thing I noticed on his table was a copy of the credit card payment receipt that said declined, so I thought that the cashier completely missed this and this guy was getting a free meal. I didn't want to make things worse by mentioning the declined payment, so I was ready to just write off the order and just pretend nothing was wrong. I explained nicely to him that we've tripled the mayo and he was free to check. Up to this point, Mr. Mayo had never even touched the burger, which kind of pissed me off because he didn't even bother looking at the amount of mayo that we put on. He rudely told me to just put lots of mayo in a sauce cup. I then realized that he just wanted free mayo on the side to be used as a dip for his fries. This burger joint actually charged the customer for dipping sauce because the sauce cup is pretty significant size, and we also had multiple different dipping sauces on offer. I could have given it to him for free if I wanted to, but rude customer definitely did not deserve double the kindness. He was already getting a free meal after all, so I told him that I'd have to charge him if he wanted to have a dipping sauce. He immediately snapped at me and demanded a refund because he didn't want to pay for the extra mayo. I complied to his request of wanting the refund and led him back to the cashier area. I usually bend meals that had gone out of the kitchen if they came back like this, but I knew for a fact that he hadn't touched the meal at all, so it was not contaminated. I told one of the staff to pack it up while I waited for a cash register to be free. Mr. Mayo saw that we were packing his food into takeaway boxes, and he dared to ask me whether I was going to give it to him for free. I calmly told him, "Unfortunately, no, sir." Then a cash register was free, and I asked him if he still had his receipt. He snobbishly showed me both the order receipt and the credit card payment copy. I smiled my best customer service smile at him as I took both receipt. I then pointed out the declined text at the bottom of the copy to him and told him I couldn't give him any refund after all because he never paid anything to begin with. Mr. Mayo's anger was confusingly directed at the mall, saying how crappy the mall was and that he'd never come back. He then furiously started stomping the ground on his way out of the restaurant as if he was a giant man baby. I took the takeaway bag containing his meal and quickly caught up with him, but I gave enough space so I didn't exactly walk with him. I just wanted him to be able to see me with his food. As we both finally walked out of the mall, I gave the meal to a homeless person who often hung out near the mall, telling him it was from that guy over there as I pointed at Mr. Mayo. I hope you also gave the homeless guy some napkins to dab off all that extra mayo. And our second story. Woman assumes I was helping a customer, but I was helping my mom. I was making some homemade sheet candy, and before I started cooking, I noticed that I was out of cooking spray. So my mom and I head out to the nearest grocery store. The employees at the store, which I worked at for a short time, wear a blue apron with the store name on the front. I was wearing a black apron covered in powdered sugar from the last batch I had made a couple of weeks prior. I'd forgotten to take the apron off before heading out. While we were there, we decided to pick up a few extra things instead of just the cooking spray. My mom can't bend over due to having a knee replacement surgery a while back, so I was helping her out by grabbing items off the lower shelf. My mom shuffled forwards a bit when I hear it. I couldn't really see much of her face, but her mask definitely screamed to me, "I demand attention," with how brightly colored it was. But it was the eye. She was glaring at me for some reason, and I couldn't figure out quite why. "Oh, sorry, am I in your way?" This has not been the first time I've been confronted by someone for being in the way while looking for something or waiting for my mom to move forward. You should be helping other customers. Uh-oh. I knew what this was the second she said that. There was no way she could recognize me as a former employee since I wasn't wearing my work wig and was only wearing a black bandana. "I don't work here, ma'am." I stood up from my crouch position and straightened my apron since it had ridden up on my back a bit. "Yes, you do. You're wearing an apron and helping that fat bee get her groceries." "That woman is my mother, and I don't work here." "Maybe instead of being what you called my mom, you should think before you speak." I went to turn and walk away from her when she screeched at me, "Get me your manager." "You want me to get my manager? Okay." I have a bit of a temper when people insult my family, but insulting my mom directly had majorly put me in a bad mood. What you may not know is that I'm the kind of person who becomes quite the smart butt when confronted angrily. So I went and got my manager, my mother. "Here's my manager. This woman has managed me for 24 years. Why don't you tell her what your complaint is?" My mom looked so confused, but the Karen just huffed and stormed out of the aisle. I thought that would be the end of it. We continued shopping when that same bright beacon of a mask came wheeling around the corner with a real employee in tow. "That's her. That's the employee that refused to help me." "Oh, Mom, you need my help in here?" "Nope, I'm good. Meet you back at the car." The Karen stomped over to me, pointing and screeching at me and the employee. She was demanding I be fired for refusing to help her and instead favoring another customer. I just stared at her, scratched my nose through my mask, and waited for her to stop her shrieking before I pointed at my apron. "Black, not blue, lady. I don't work here. I was shopping with my mom. Leave me alone." The employee looked so confused, only managing out a weak, "She doesn't work here." The second that Karen started yelling at the employee, I just booked it out of there. I feel bad for leaving the guy with that crazy lady, but I wasn't about to deal with her crap or risk completely snapping and doing something violent after she'd insulted my mother. I must have a retail face or something, or rather retail eyes, what with us all having to wear masks and everything. But holy crap, lady, insulting a customer and demanding a person wearing a sugar-covered apron to help you? I ain't a sugary sweet maid that bends to your every will. It continues to amaze me how these entitled people are told I don't work here, yet continue to insist that a person works there. What the hell? And our next story. My family's battles with a tyrannical HOA. We lived in an awful HOA. They wouldn't allow us to keep the playhouse that my dad had built us. They said it didn't qualify as a play set, which is allowed. It qualified as a garden shed. It was the coolest little playhouse with cedar shingles, and it's still at our old house, rotting away because the new owners didn't care. They once fined us $50 per day until we repainted our house, as if you can just get the first warning and be like, "Yep, I'll knock that out right now." We were treated like second-class citizens for having a non-traditional house color. It's gray. A horrible woman used to walk around the neighborhood with a clipboard and wrote people up for having visible trash cans. She wasn't even an HOA board member. She just sucked. Her house was foreclosed on and no one misses her. Endless letters about overgrowth in our yard. That one's true, though. We don't weed enough. We had our vindication, though. My baby brother was obsessed with planting seeds as a kid. If he had an apple or an orange, he'd save the seeds and try to plant them outside. My mom got him some of those crappy little paper cups with dirt and seeds from the dollar section at Target. He planted both by our front door. One of the plants, birdhouse gourd vine, was incredibly prolific and actually swallowed our entire front porch. Little bro was so effing excited. We had over 30 gigantic gourds when it was at its peak. It was so big you couldn't go through the front door anymore. We waited every day for the HOA letter and peed ourselves laughing when we got it. It just said, "There's some overgrowth in your yard." The HOA was so hated that it finally kind of fell apart. They haven't bothered anyone in years. And our last story. Crazy Karen blocking our driveway and more. I moved into my townhouse a few months back and quickly realized just how crazy one of my neighbors is. The day after the old owners moved out, there was an ordinance violation from the city on my door saying we left trash out on the curb too long. The old owners called the trash company to pick up their stuff when they moved, but Karen still sent a notice on them to the city because she hated them. She even told us she was specifically being petty because they never took care of their property. And that's where my issue with her comes in. There's a little front area with a tree and space for flowers and bushes, and the old owners did neglect it a bit, so first thing I did was rip out all the old dead plants. I covered the ground with new soil and spread some seed mix for pollinating flowers. There was no life in that old soil, so I figured I'll just spread this mix and see what grows. A few weeks later, I get a warning in my mail from the HOA that there's too many weeds and I have to pull them out. I text the president and say it's flowers budding and they're not weeds. She says fine, and that's done. Everything else overgrew a tad, so I went out with ripped out all the overgrown plants and trimmed it down. Yesterday, someone from the HOA is out in the front trimming the budding branches off the front tree. I've never seen her, so I go out to ask what they're doing. She says she's HOA, and I go back inside. I go back to my office, which overlooks the front, and lo and behold, Karen's crap-talking me to the HOA lady for 10 minutes. She's making crazy gestures to our house and throwing out accusations about how we don't take care of the property. No one wants to look at it. Look how pretty theirs is, etc. She also throws some of our other neighbors under the bus, including one who has the giant mailbox for all the units at the end of their driveway. She said even though it's city property, they should be taking care of it. How dare they? So Tuesday night's a board meeting, and I'm considering going just to shut down Karen, but I'm not sure what approach to bring to the table. Update. Went to the meeting yesterday, and it was only a few people on the board, plus Karen, who I guess is an alternate. I brought up that Karen throws a garage sale every single weekend for her insane couponing stock she can't get rid of, and cars always block my driveway because of it. I also threatened her with a restraining order, and that had a positive effect because she started bothering us a lot less. HOA probably knows she's loony, but they think she's perfectly normal even after she said she cuts the grass missed by the contractor lawnmower with scissors. Wow, I've read a lot about Karens, but cutting grass with scissors is something new. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.